What's going on, everyone, and welcome to my first official YouTube video. I'm really excited to be here. I put a lot of work into this video, and I hope you guys enjoy. Now, hopefully the quality of this video is good. Like I said, it's my first video, so it's only going to get better and better. But in today's video, I have for you the top 50 lightweights in the UFC. Now, this list is put together by me, and I hope you guys agree with it. If you don't agree with it, please leave a comment. That's what this is for. I'm here for discussion. I don't have a lot of people to talk about the UFC with, and that's what this is for. So please be free to leave a comment. That's what I'm here for. Let's do it. Let's hang out. Let's talk about it. Let's get on into the video right away. Coming in at the number 50 spot, we got boom, Slava Claus and Jordan Vucenic. These are both really good fighters. Jordan Vucenic's coming off a loss to Guram Kutadalazi, but that's a good loss to be coming off. He took that fight on short notice, and he ended up kind of gassing out towards the later rounds, which ended up costing the fight. But he gave a really good first round, and I think if he takes a full camp, maybe he wins that fight. I don't know, but I think he has a good future at lightweight. He is booked this weekend to be fighting Chris Duncan at UFC London, and I reckon he wins that fight. Now, I couldn't decide on one fighter, excuse me, so I picked two fighters, and that's why we also have Slava Claus here on this list. I think he's a good fighter to be on this list at the number 50 spot. He's a very 50-50 fighter, win-loss, as you see. But these losses aren't that bad. Chase Hooper's a good loss. Tim Nolan's a good loss. He's a pretty good fighter. And I say for their next fight, let's put them against each other. That's a good fight to be right there. I think they're on the same level in their career. Jordan Vucenic, maybe not a step up because they're on the same level, but he's going to be coming off a win, and Slava Claus needs a fight, so I say we matchmake them together. Now, at the number 49 spot, I got Trey Ogden. He's a pretty good fighter. He is coming off a loss to Thiago Moises, but Thiago Moises is a really underrated fighter. And he also has a loss to Ignacio Bahamondes, but in between those, he has a couple good wins. Bahamondes is a ranked fighter, so you can't give him too much hate on that. He also has a win over Daniel Zellhuber, that's a really good win. Daniel Zellhuber is someone who I rank, pretty good. He's a good lightweight. He's coming off a loss himself, but he's a good lightweight. And at the number 48 spot, we got boom, Jim Miller. Come on. He might be an old head, but he's a veteran of the sport, and he continually demands his respect in these fights. He's winning out there. He has a bad loss against to Bobby Green, but Bobby Green's still pretty quick. He kind of got to put a little bit of power to put Bobby Green out. He's a little bit chinny, and Jim Miller just doesn't have that same power, but Bobby Green still is fast, so that's a loss right there in itself. I'm not going to have Bobby Green on this list. He has just too many knockouts, and I'm just not going to include him for that reason. But Jim Miller is a good fighter. Boom. There we go. Number 48. Now at the number 47 spot, it might be a little bit of a cheat, but I guess I didn't do enough research before making this video. I made the list, and I didn't want to change my list because I'm already too far in. But at the number 47 spot, I got Mark Diakis. He's a pretty good fighter. He's no longer in the UFC. That's why I say it's not really fair for me to put him on this list. But he has some good wins in the UFC. He's now in the PFL. He's got a fight scheduled for the PFL. So, check him out there if you want. At number 46, we got Claudio Puelles. Claudio Puelles is a pretty good fighter. He has two of his losses right now. His most recent ones are against good fighters. You got Frez Ziam and Dan Hooker. Those are both really good lightweights. He beat Clay Guida. That's a good win. Puelles, he's a bit of a grappler, so if you like to watch the grappling, that's pretty good to watch. Not really my bread and butter, but, I like to see what he has to go on in the future of the UFC. Now, at the number 45 spot, we got Khabib Nurmagomedov. Just kidding. This is Nurullo Aliyev. He looks a lot like him, but he's a good fighter, undefeated. First undefeated fighter on the list at 10-0. He's coming off a pretty good win at Joe Selecki. Bit of a lot of gaps in his career. He comes off on a 2-year layoff, but he got the win in his last fight, so he looks pretty good. Undefeated fighter. I like to see what the future has. I love to see undefeated fighters in the UFC. It's always the mystery and the aura of that undefeated record you have. And he looks like Khabib. He fights like him. He's a good fighter. He has a win against Rafael Alves, and that's a pretty underrated win. He's no longer in the UFC, but that was a pretty good fighter. And let's just move on to the number 44 spot. And at the number 44 spot, we got Michael Johnson. He's a little bit of an old head still, like Jim Miller, but he's a good fighter. He's coming off a knockout against a Zaitar. That's a pretty good win. he has a loss against Jamie Malarkey, and I don't really rate that much. And that's not really like a good loss to have, but like he's got good fast hands. He's still I would say he put up a good fight against most of the people in the division. I would say probably getting knocked out by a lot of the people above him, but he'd still put up a good fight against most people in the division, and that's why he's here. He's a good fighter still. Now moving on to the number 43 spot, we got Matt Frivola. Matt Frivola is a really good fighter himself. He is coming off of a big knockout against Freziam. He got knocked out. He got knocked out bad. There's a clip of his corner telling him to turn around, and he gets knocked out, like kneed right in the face as soon as he turns around, and they go, "Oh shit!" That's a pretty like wild moment, but you hate to see that, but that was a really exciting moment. He also is coming off a loss to Benoit Saint Denis, which isn't the best, but I guess Benoit Saint Denis is better than him, but not really the best. He does have a win against Drew Dober, and I think Drew Dober is a pretty good fighter, so I think that's really good. Now, Frivola is very much a killer, be killed kind of fighter. He's always got, always going out there getting these like first round finishes, or he's being chinned, by Freziam or Benoit Saint Denis. But he's always going out there guns blazing, and he's really entertaining and really fun to watch. So if you're really like trying to get into the UFC, you're trying to just trying to find some fighters that you're not too familiar with. Check out this video. I'm be telling you a lot of good names, a lot of high level technical fighters, a lot of brawlers who are just gonna run, face forward, just throwing hooks. A lot of exciting fighters on this list. Every one of these fighters you can check out, and you can be like, that was a good fight that they just had. So, make sure you check out these fighters in the future. I'm putting them on here for a reason. They're really fun to watch. If you want to get in the UFC, check these guys out. All right, coming in at the number 42 spot, we got Jared Gordon. He is a pretty good fighter. He's coming off a loss. Not much to say about him. He's pretty decent himself. I don't know much to say. Let's move on. Number 41, we got Terrence T-Rex McKinney. Very fun fighter, like Matt Frivola. They fought each other, back in the day. Another one of these killer be killed kind of fighter. He's just always going forward. Not much. He doesn't have a good chin. That's his thing. He doesn't have a good chin. He's coming off a win, which is good. He also has a loss to Ribovics. Has a pretty bad head kick, pretty bad knockout. But he's always getting a pretty bad knockout. So, Terrence McKinney, I'm at the number 41 spot. I think he could still make a run at it. Maybe not, but he's fun to watch. Check him out. And I say we give him Michael Johnson. This is a little bit of like an old head versus youngin fight. We got the old generation versus the new generation. This is a very cool fight. I think it's going to be a fun fight. I say, why don't you make this fight? This would be cool. If you don't want to do it, you can give Michael Johnson someone like, I don't know, maybe give him another older fighter. Like, you can give a Bobby Green, I guess. That'll be a fun fight. Maybe. I could see that happening. But this, to me, is a good fight. You could kind of sell both of them. It's winnable for both, too. Michael Johnson can definitely knock him out, and Terrence McKinney can definitely knock him out or submit him. This is a good fight. Moving on. Coming in at the number 40 spot, we got Drakkar Klose. He is coming off a brutal knockout against Joel Alvarez, and that, I feel bad for him, He was getting, like, slept bad in that fight. Put in a guillotine while he was getting punched, and he was getting kneed in the face. That was insane. But he also has a pretty good, like, win streak going on. Maybe the names aren't that great of a win streak, but he's a good fighter. I remember him back in the day. He got knocked out by Beneil Dariush, but he's a decent fighter. He belongs on this list. I don't know what the future has for him, but he's a decent fighter. Now, coming in at the number 39 spot, we got Ismael Bonfim. He's coming off a bit of a weird loss. He got kicked in the face, and I think he was saying that he couldn't see. It was a bit of a weird one. He has a loss to Benoit Saint Denis. Like I said, that's not the best. Just beat, as a win, not just beat, but he beat Terrence McKinney. That's a pretty good win. He's a decent fighter. I don't know what to do with him in the future. I don't have a card, a fight to matchmake him with, but he's a good fighter himself. Moving forward at number 38, we got Drew Dober, the Iron Chin. This dude can take a punch like no other. He's coming off a bad loss against John Silva. He also has a loss to Moicano, but those aren't that bad. He got, he lost to the Steamroller Matt Frivola. It's not the best loss. I have him higher than Matt Frivola. That was a couple fights ago. I think he has some improvement. And he's fought some good fighters. That's why he has these 2 losses in a row. But he's a decent fighter himself, Moving on, we got number 37, Manuel Torres, and these fighting Drew Dober in Mexico City. I think he's gonna knock him out. I don't know. Drew Dober's got a crazy chin, so maybe he doesn't. But I think he's got the power, and I think he's got like what the ferocity or the aggressiveness. He's gonna be swinging. I think he's gonna touch his chin, and I think Dober has taken too many punches. Maybe this one's gonna make him fall, but if he doesn't, I say he gasses out. Dober comes back and he wins like the later rounds. It's gonna be a fun fight. Check that one out, Mexico City. Moving forward at the number 36 spot, I got Nazim Sadikov. Now he's a good fighter. He's like I said, he's coming off that weird knockout win against Bonfim. That's kind of weird. He has a draw against Borshev. That's why he's not a little bit higher on this list. He has a win against Terrence McKinney. A lot of people do, but that's still a good win. And, you know, he's a good fighter. We got him at number 36. Moving forward, number 35, Tim Nolan. Tim Nolan's a good fighter. You may be saying, why I have him so high? You know, maybe he doesn't deserve the spot. He did just beat Slava Claus. I think that's a good win. He's a win over, was that Dominic Reyes' brother, Alex Reyes? That's a good win itself. He has got that knockout loss to Mata or Moda. I'm not sure how you pronounce that last name. It was a bit of a weird one, but I still think he's a good fighter. He's very dangerous off his back, and he's a good striker. So you kind of got to worry about it if you take him down, and you got to worry about it when it's standing. So I think he's a very dynamic fighter. That's why I have him kind of high, but I think he's pretty good. Now, moving on to number 34, it's another tall fighter. And like I said, I rate him very highly. Daniel Zellhuber, he's a good fighter. He looked good in that last fight. That head movement was good. You know, Esteban Rubix, he's a good fighter. He was bringing that fight to him. Not many fighters are going to be able to evade that and keep it like on their feet and survive that. He survived that. I rate that. He's got a loss to Trey Ogden. That's not the best. But, you know, these 3 wins are some good wins. That fight of the year. Fight of the year. I don't know why it didn't win. It should have won. It was definitely fight of the year to me. I'm talking about the Esteban Rubix fight at the Sphere. It's a badass fight. I would like to see him in another cool fight. He was supposed to be fighting Elves Brenner, Mexico City. I don't know what happened, but that fizzled out. He's no longer fighting on that card. I was excited to see him fight, but, you know, we'd have to wait to see what he does, but I'm excited to see the future for him. Well, anyway, moving on to number 33, we got Mike Beast Boy Davis. He's coming off a loss to Frezian, but that was a fun scrap. That was a good fight. If you didn't check that out, you should maybe, if you have Fight Pass, go back and watch that. That's a fun fight. I recommend anyone go watch that. I want to say round 2 is when he had him up in the air and he's just throwing elbows off the top and he slams them. That's a good fight. Very cool to watch. It was very grapple heavy, which not used to seeing, but like he was pulling guard in some moments, but it was still a fun fight overall. I recommend you guys check that one out. At the number 33 spot, he's a good fighter. You know, like I said about everyone, I got to start coming up with some new phrases. I'll try to, but, you know, he's a good fighter. Anyway, we'll just move on. At the number 32 spot, we got Jai Herbert. Jai Herbert, he's booked for UFC London as well against Chris Padilla. Chris Padilla is another fighter that I should have probably included on this list. So if you want to just excuse some of the, like, the earlier fighters that I had named, and if you want to put him on this list, he's a good fighter. I don't think he's going to beat Jai Herbert. I think Jai Herbert's a pretty good fighter. He dropped Ilya Taporia, which you have to rate that. Ilya Taporia is, like, come on. He knocked out Volkanovski. He knocked out Holloway. He's like the future, you know? Hopefully he doesn't beat Islam if they book that fight. I like Islam a lot. Don't really like Taporia that much. You know, he's the heel of the division, or he's the heel of the UFC pretty much. But that's a good. He got knocked out. Jai Herbert got knocked out. I'm gassing him up a lot, but he did get knocked out that fight. Anyway, that was a good fight. The Klein fight, you know, that's a draw. And Klein's a good fighter. Freziam's a good fighter too. He's coming off a win. I say he's gonna win again, and I like it. I like him. He's a good fighter. Moving on. Number 31, Guram Kutudalladze. Like I said, he's coming off that win against Jordan Vucenic, in which, you know, Vucenic had a good first round against him. Now, this is a fighter that a lot of people talk about like he's, you know, one of the best at the time. When he fought Gamrot, he got that win against him, and, you know, that's a big win to have against Gamrot. Gamrot's like in the top 10 of the division now. He ended up getting 2 losses in a row, one of them against Elves Brenner. But man, that Elves Brenner fight was a banger. And let me tell you, if you can't finish Elves Brenner is going to come back and finish you if you're not careful. Because he is tough as it gets. He can take the punishment. and he ended up getting beat up bad. He had white hair that during that fight, white facial hair, ended up being red like Kool-Aid stained. That was insane. It was a cool fight. He ended up putting a Guram against the corner and then knocking him out like it was like a left hook. It was a really badass fight. Check that one out. But Guram Kutateladze, another fighter on this UFC London card. They have a lot of lightweights on that card. Um, I reckon he wins that fight, and he's a good fighter. I think he's gonna have a step up in the future. He's not gonna be this washed fighter that everyone says he is. He has a good win against Jordan Vucenic. That was short notice, but he's gonna come back. He's gonna get a couple more wins, and I think he's pretty good. Maybe he's not top 5, top 10 level, but I think he can crack the rankings at least. Now, hopefully, we're not taking too long on this video. I know we're like probably not the halfway point, but at the number 30 spot, we got Thiago Moises. Like I said, he's a very underrated fighter. He's very good. Just coming off a win against Trey Ogden, lost to Ludovic Klein, lost to Saint Denis. It's not the best, but still, he's just at this level. I don't think he's gonna ever crack the rankings. I think he's gonna be a gatekeeper for the rankings, like he's been doing. He's just someone that really kind of tests your grappling. Excuse me. He took Islam Makhachev to 4th round, which is pretty impressive. He's just very underrated. Not a lot of people would give him praise. He's coming out of the Fighting Nerds gym. I don't know why he's not getting the same level of credit, but he's a good fighter. Maybe he's not as flashy as the other guys. That's probably why, but he deserves to be on this list. Now at the number 29 spot, we got Nasrat Haqparast. He's coming off a win. I don't think he deserved to get that win, but he has it. He is on a pretty good win streak. He's probably going to want to step up in the competition. Maybe give it to him. He hasn't really caught my eye that much, but he's definitely a good fighter. He's got some good boxing, and he's just well-rounded. He's a pretty good, decent fighter. I don't think he won that last fight. That's why I'm not too keen on him. I think, Ribovic is a better fighter. But let's just move on. Number 28. Chase the Dream Hooper. I showed this slide to one of my family members who has no idea about the UFC just because I was trying to show them like what I'm trying to get into right now. And I showed them this one, and they laughed. They thought it was a joke because I had mentioned that there were going to be some jokes in this. But, he is a good fighter. Coming up from featherweight, he didn't have the same, like, pop that he did, that he has now, excuse me. Like, he dropped Borshev. That's a good win. He dropped him, and then he beat him up bad with elbows. He just beat Clay Guida. He's booked to fight another old head, and Jim Miller. I think he wins that fight as well. Probably going to be a little more tough than the Guida fight, but I reckon he gets another easy win. And then, hey, maybe the UFC gives him another old head, but I like to see him. Bedtime likes to call him the Charles Oliveira, new Charles Oliveira. I could see that. I like that. He's a good fighter. He's fun to watch. I watch his fights. He's cool. A little bit nerdy looking, but he's fun. Moving on, number 27, a fighter that I really like. Elfsbrenner, like I said, extremely, extremely tough. He's coming off 2 losses. Those are really good losses, though. Yoel Alvarez, he knocked him out. He's kind of like pivoting, like knees to the face, like basketball pivot. Leave it to the 6'3" lightweight to have a basketball move in his arsenal, but he's just kneeing him in the face brutally until he drops him. Finishes up with a little bit of ground and pound. That was a really fun fight. Check that one out. He also lost to Orobai. I think that was UFC 301. That was a cool fight. Orobai kind of looked like he gassed out in the 3rd round. Like I said, Brenner is not someone you want to gas out with. And he showed, he was giving him a really tough fight in that 3rd round. But then Orobai ended up catching him, and I think he dropped him like towards the end of the round, which gave him that round. But that was a cool fight. Check that one out. I like this guy. I would like to see him against Jai Herbert in the future. I think that's a cool fight. I think Jai Herbert's going to beat Chris Padilla, which is going to give him on a little win streak, which he's going to need to step up. Brenner's on a 2-fight losing streak. He's going to need to step down. I think this is good matchmaking. Give me a pat on the back. Leave a comment. Say I did a good job. Appreciate it. Thank you. Moving on, number 26. Esteban Rivbix. I think he won that fight. That's why I have him a little bit higher. Maybe I shouldn't have him this high, but I think he won that fight. He's coming off of that loss, but he also has a really good win against Daniel Zellhuber. And like I said, that was the fight of the year. That should have been fight of the year. That was really fun. He also has that knockout against Terrence McKinney. That was a pretty cool fight. I like this guy. He's really exciting. Very violent, high output fighter. if you're looking to get into like some like cool boxing combinations, with high output, this is a really fun guy to watch. So keep an eye out for him. Moving on to my favorite fighter currently at the lightweight division, Miktabik Orobai. And I got him fighting Woolly Mammoth. Just kidding, all jokes. I don't want to disrespect him too much. He's a really good fighter. He's coming off a loss to Rebecca, but that was a freaking banger of a fight. Another fight of the year contender. I don't think it's fight of the year, but it's a contender for it. Where he was getting pieced up bad. It probably broke both of his orbital bones. That was really brutal. But he ended up coming back like in the. Like, he was never out. That's the thing. He was always in the fight, always there, getting pieced badly though, bad, a lot of damage. So maybe he needs some time, but very cool fighter. I really like him a lot. Just the mystery of him is it's badass. He's cool. He is a cool, fun fighting style too. He's not just some boring grappler, which he is a heavy grappler, but he's got heavy hands. He's got a cool piston was like a cross. He's a very good fighter. I like him a lot, and I say we give him Guram Kutudalazi after his next win. He's fighting at UFC London. I think it's gonna work out pretty good. I don't think Guram's gonna take too much damage in that fight. So he's gonna be looking for a step up in competition. I think he's gonna win. And Orobai is going to be looking for a step down. Maybe not a step down. This is around the same level of competition. But give him a little bit of a break. I want him to heal up a bit, kind of rest a bit. I really like him. Orobai at my number 25 spot. Moving on to another fighter who is no longer in the division. Actually, no longer in the UFC. He said he was retiring. Which, when I show you this picture, it might not look the best. 4 out of his last 5 are losses. 14-9 record, but this dude is a really good striker, really fun to watch. 6'3" in the division. Maybe you just need to move up to lightweight, dude. Welterweight. Maybe that's what you got to do. I know you tried it earlier on in your career and you got knocked out by Vicente Luque, but what the hell is the UFC doing to you, giving you Vicente Luque in your debut? That's crazy. So I thought he was a pretty fun fighter. I really don't want to see him retire. I would like to see him stick around. And in his next fight, like I said, I think he should move up. And by moving up, I want to give him Vicente Luque. Yes, I'm not being a dick by saying this. Excuse my language. He did get knocked out by him in the past. But come on, Vicente Luque is not the same fighter. Yes, he's coming off a win against Themba Gorimbo. But he is not the same fighter. He's taking too much damage. Like, he had that brain hemorrhage. And Jalen Turner, he's taking a lot of damage himself. But, I think he's at a point in his career where this is a winnable fight for him. It's not the same Jalen Turner that came into the UFC so long ago at 170. This is an experienced 155-pounder moving up to the 170 division. And, lighter man skill, like Lucas Tracy says. This is a good fight. Please don't retire. I know I just saw it on the tracker for X that it says you're removed. Sorry. Please come back. I'd like to see what the future has for you, Jalen Turner. You're still young. Come on, man. Moving on. Number 23, we got another fighter. I should be mad at him because he just not knocked out, but he just had a really crazy fight against one of my favorite fighters, Orobai. We got Mateusz Rebecki. Just like, I don't know, like Popeye. This dude's got big old short biceps. Like, he's got short arms, big old biceps. He's just throwing hooks. Did a lot of damage. He's got really good grappling. Didn't see it that well in the Diego Ferreira fight or in the Orobai fight. His grappling didn't show that much. But those are two good grapplers themselves. He took a lot of damage in that Ferreira fight. But that was a fun fight. Check that one out. It's kind of like Ferreira's a very good anti-grappler. So if you're going with a grappling approach on him, you might not be successful unless you're an actual like top-level grappler. And I guess Rebecca might not be that level of grappler. But he is a good fighter. And he is deserving of the 23 spot. He's got very good wins on his record, and he's a good fighter. Moving on, like I said, Ferreira, he beat him pretty bad. It would be disrespectful not to have him above him, but he's coming off a loss against Grant Dawson. I don't remember if that was for a ranking spot, but it sure is just outside the rankings that fight was. He didn't look that great that fight. He ended up losing by decision. Grant Dawson, he's not the most exciting fighter. That was the most exciting fight. I did see that one live. I was there at UFC 311 in Los Angeles. Pretty cool card. Very amazing fight. Very amazing card. Kind of a semi-fun fight, but I say moving forward, like I said, he's a very good anti-grappler. Let's give him another strong grappler. Chase the Dream Hooper. Let's do it. Maybe this is kind of bad. You don't want to see Chase Hooper take this kind of damage. Like I said, Fajita is a very good anti-grappler. Did a lot of damage to Rebecca. Who's to say he's not going to do the same thing? But Chase Hooper is coming off 2 wins. Clay Guida, I think he's going to beat Jim Miller. That's why I say 2 wins. Those are 2 old people. Fajita is another old person in the division. He's like 39 years old, but way more dangerous than those last 2 names. I say you give him that fight. I think it's be a fun fight. I reckon he's a good grappler. That's why I say as long as he can get him down, I think he can hold him down, because his jiu-jitsu's next level. Maybe his wrestling's not there, but if he can get him down, he can hold him down. I think very winnable for both of them. He's gonna need to step up. Let's do this fight. I hope you guys are enjoying the video. We're kind of like halfway point. A lot of these fighters, they're all really respectable fighters. So if you're enjoying it, please leave a like, leave a comment. Who your favorite lightweight in the division is. Like I said, currently mine is Orobai. Tony Ferguson is my favorite fighter in the UFC. No longer in the UFC. He's fighting Dylan Dennis. Supposedly he's supposed to be fighting Dylan Dennis. So I'm really excited to see that. So like I said, just leave a comment who you guys think your favorite lightweight is currently. I would love to hear it. Thank you. All right, moving on to the number 21 spot. I got Freziam. I think he's a pretty decent fighter. Very tall. Had a couple of decisions early on in his career. But he's coming off that fun-ass scrap with Mike Davis. That was really cool. That brutal knockout to Frivola. He knocked him out bad. And then the rest of them are kind of a couple of decisions. So he's a fun fighter. He's very tall, lanky. Maybe he can get a little bit more muscle. I don't know. I need this dude's stretching routine or something, because that Mike Davis fight, his legs are being bent backwards like no other. There's a whole nother, that was crazy. That was crazy. And he's able to survive that. That leg dexterity is insane. Drop the stretching routine. I have him at the number 21 spot. He's a good fighter. Moving on. Number 20, Benoit Scam Denis. Just kidding. Benoit Saint Denis, he's a good fighter. Keep saying that. Like I said, I need to come up with a new phrase. Leave a comment, some better freaking phrases I could use. He's coming off a brutal loss to Moicano. Man, he really got shown levels in his grappling in that fight. And in his previous fight, he got shown levels in his striking to Poirier. I guess those are a really good grappler and a really good striker. But the people were talking about this dude like he was on another level. He was the favorite in I think both of those fights, which is insane. I had Poirier winning that fight, and I had Moicano winning that fight. I thought he was going to do better in both of those fights. I didn't think he was going to get knocked out by Poirier, and I thought he was going to go to decision against Moicano. So maybe he's just taking too much of a step up. I think he's scheduled to be fighting Yoel Alvarez. That's a fun fight. Love to see that. Moving on to the number 19 spot, we got Ludovic Klein. He's got a little bit of a win streak going on right now in the lightweight division. He's a good fighter. Another fighter who I think needs to step up. I don't know if I said Freziam needs to step up, but they both need to step up. And I think, give him a shot at the rankings. This dude is a good win record. He's got a win over Ignacio Bahamondes, in which he got some brutal ground and pound in that fight. And like I said earlier, Bahamondes is ranked. That's a ranked fighter. So this dude deserves a shot at the rankings as well. Moving on to number 18, Grant Dawson. Grant Dawson, he's cool. He's got a good win win streak in the UFC. He's on a 3-fight win streak. He's got that bad fight against Bobby Green in which he got slept in the first round. I don't think that happens very often. If you do that fight 9 times out of 10, that's probably not gonna happen. I think he might win that fight. So if you want to call it a fluke, we'll call it a fluke. But I just don't think he's that too exciting of a fighter. He's a good fighter. Don't get me wrong. He deserves a spot at this, his 18th spot, and he deserves a spot at the rankings for sure. There's a reason he's ranked. I'm pretty sure he's ranked. He should be ranked, but I just don't think he's too exciting. He's coming off that win against Carlos Diego Ferreira, and maybe you give him a step up in the rankings. Like I said, he just hasn't caught my eye too much, so that's why I have a match made against these two fighters. Whichever one you want to give him, I think they both need to step up, in the division. And maybe he doesn't need to step down, but let's just give him the step down, Moving on, number 17, Ignacio Bahamondes. He's coming off that finish to Jalen Turner. I mean, against Jalen Turner. That was really cool. I guess like first round finish. Good for him. He got no damage taken. I was very, very disappointed. I watched that fight at my friend's house. I normally watch the fights alone, and I went to my friend's house to watch that one. I was so excited to see these 6'3" lightweights go at it. You know, the striking was to be really fun, but he ends up getting submitted in the first round, so it was a little bit disappointing. You know, but it's good for him. He didn't take that much damage. Good for him as well. He's able to make a quick turnaround. Like to see what he has going on in the future. I don't know how far up you make him shoot up in the rankings. You know, if you want to schedule him against someone a little bit higher. I don't know. He's not that high level. He's a very good fighter, very good off his back, very good striker. Doesn't have too much power. Can put a little bit more muscle. Like he's not like Jalen Turner. Jalen Turner was like a tall, lengthy fighter, but he still had a little bit more pop and muscle. Bahamondes doesn't have that same pop. I'm saying this as he just come off a win against him. You know, he deserves a spot, but I just don't know what to do with him. So I don't have a matchmaking for him. But moving on, number 16. Pretty much probably everyone's favorite fighter right now, you know, in the lightweight division. Mauricio Rufy. He's a good fighter, dude. Come on. That knockout to Bobby Green was insane. He fainted that left hook and went in with the spinning heel kick. Dude, that was crazy. Bobby Green, come on, man. You got to retire or you got to fight really low level competition because I just hate to see you get knocked out brutally again, man. But all right, Mauricio Rufy, that win against James Yantop, insane. Yantop's I hate that the UFC got rid of him. I really wish they would have kept him because he was a fun fighter. He was just moving forward, like taking a beating the whole time, like a Peruvian punching bag, man, just getting beat up. But that was a cool fight. He has that really fun fight against Jimmy Malarkey. He got like a scissor trip on him. That was pretty cool. He's from the Fighting Nerds gym, very hyped up gym. He called out Benil Dariush at UFC 313 after his knockout against Bobby Green, and you know maybe that's a bit of a step up in competition for him. I don't think he would win that fight. I really don't. Depends on Dariush's chin. If he's able to catch Dariush with something crazy and drop him, maybe, you know. But Dariush is still a good fighter, and that's a big step up from James Yantop and Bobby Green to Dariush is insane. Benil Dariush is a great fighter, you know. I don't know about that one, but hey, let's give it to him. I think that was a fun fight. Get him what he wants. I believe in the hype. Let's give it to him. Maybe he loses, so what? Let's be a fun fight, fun scrap. Moving on. Rafael Fiziev, he's saying he wants to drop down to featherweight, and if he's able to make that weight cut, I say do it. You know, he's pretty small, like 5'7", but very very stocky. And a lot of people when they drop down a weight class, they don't have the same success. But I reckon he would. You know, he's very fast, very quick hands, very good reflexes. You can see in all his fights, he's very fast. He ends up kind of gassing out, so maybe that wouldn't help too much. Another weight cut, but he's a good fighter. If he doesn't go to featherweight, I have another fight that I have match made him. You know, a little bit. I'll talk about it a little bit later on, but he's a good fighter. Just got 3 losses in a row. Doesn't look that great, for the rankings, but he's probably gonna have to fight down, or like he's wanting to do, move down to featherweight. Like I said, that'd be cool. I always like to see when people jump around weight classes. It's kind of fun to see. I don't think he'll be that successful at featherweight, but I think he's fast enough to, hold up in the speed area. Moving on to number 14. We got Benil Dariush. He's coming off 2 brutal knockouts. Oliveira and Saryukin. Those are, the top of this division, so that's not too bad. Very good fighter, very good wins. A lot of people were thinking he was going to beat Islam Makhachev, So, I say for his next fight, we give him, we give Rufy what he wants. We give him this fight, and this is winnable for Dariush. It's not like we're feeding him to a slaughterhouse. He's a good fighter, dude. He's really good. He's gonna hold his own in this fight, and if he gets to those later rounds, I can see him making the cardio, weaponizing his cardio against him and really taking the fight to him, and he could finish him in those later rounds. Heck, he could finish him in those early rounds. We don't know how good of a grappler Mauricio Rufy is. I know how good Benil Dariush is. Maybe he's a little bit chinny now, but he's still a top-level fighter. Don't let me get carried away. This is a really fun fight. Dariush at UFC 311, they ended up kind of like switching around his fight. He was supposed to be fighting Moicano. Didn't fight, but he ended up getting. I've heard. I don't know. I don't like to talk about it too much. I'm not gonna go into everyone's, pay and stuff like that. But I do think he got his win bonus and his show money, which is really awesome. I think he's gonna want to do the UFC a favor, and they're probably asking him about this fight. And if the UFC wants a favor out of him, he's probably gonna say yeah. I say they make this fight, and I think he could win. I reckon he wins. Moving on, number 13, we got Paddy the Baddy Pimlet. Very fun, big name in the division. He's on a really crazy win streak. Uh, a lot of people rate him. Bedtime rates him really highly. Bedtime MMA, but I just don't know. He beat Bobby Green. That win didn't age that well. Tony Ferguson. Hate to say anything bad about him. He's just not the same level of fighter. Jared Gordon's decent. Just these wins aren't that great. So he has a fight booked. UFC 314 in Miami against Michael Chandler. I think Iron Michael Chandler is gonna knock him out, man. I think he's gonna go in with either a left hook against the cage and just freaking drop him bad. There's a different level of power I think Michael Chandler has that Paddy Pimblett has yet to face, and he doesn't have the head movement. I think he's able to touch his chin. If he touches his chin, he's gonna drop. But if he doesn't, let's say he's able to get Michael Chandler down. His jiu-jitsu is really high level, but Michael Chandler is a wrestler. He has a wrestling background. It's gonna be hard to bring down. Very short, stocky build. This is a tough fight. So I don't know if he's the favorite in this fight. I don't think he should be, but he has a chance. He has a chance. And if he doesn't win this fight, which I don't think he is, I think he's gonna get knocked out. He's gonna they're not gonna give him a too much of a bad fight. He's a big name. They're not gonna after this knockout. They're not gonna give him like some no name. He's still gonna get a decent fight. And with that, I think they're gonna give him Fiziev. I think he's gonna stay at lightweight. I think once he tries to do this, maybe he does one weight cut and he realizes that's too much. But he's a big guy. He is short, but he's got a lot of muscle on him. So maybe that weight cut's too much for him. And I think this fight's winnable for Fiziev too. He's got pretty decent takedown defense. Very short, stocky. Very fast hands. If he can put these hands on Pimlet, he's gonna drop him too. Maybe he doesn't have the same power like Michael Chandler, but he does got power too, and I think he can put out Pimlet. I think he can keep the fight standing. Pimlet, if he's able to, like I said about the Michael Chandler fight, this is another hard ass fight. I don't know why I'm matchmaking with hard fights. I think these are like bad style matchups for him, but he could still win this fight. Pimlet, if he could get him down to the ground, I reckon his jiu-jitsu is good enough against anyone to where he gets it to the mat. It's winnable, but that's the issue, is getting it down to the mat. Moving on to probably the coolest fighter in the division, Yoel Alvarez. All of his wins by finish. He's coming off that crazy finish against Drakkar Klose, where he got him with like time to knee crazy to the face. He put him in a guillotine, and when he had him in that guillotine, he's like throwing little like punches to the face. It was insane. He just has an insane finishing like technique, or I don't know. Just he's always looking to finish, is what I'm trying to say. He also finished Elsbrenner. I already talked about that earlier, where he's pivoting knees to the face. Insane. He has a loss against Arman Sarikian. Arman's on the top of the sport. It did showcase that he has bad takedown defense. We have seen it in other fights, not just this one. But Arman is the top of the sport. Arman did brutally finish Alvarez, but hey, I think he is going to be, a future of the division. Maybe he doesn't become champion, but he sure as hell is going to make it in the top 5. And he's a really fun, exciting fighter. He, like I said earlier, has a fight against Yoel Alvarez that's booked. I mean, this is Yoel Alvarez. He has a fight against Benoit Saint Denis that's booked. I think that's UFC 315. I could be wrong. It's unconfirmed, so it's not booked. It's rumored. But that fight, dude, come on. That is like the fight for, that's my favorite fight. Yoel Alvarez versus Benoit Saint Denis. You got a marauder like Benoit Saint Denis who's going to be going forward, throwing those body kicks. Maybe he has some improvement from his last couple fights. I would hope he has a lot of improvement. And we got someone like Yoel Alvarez who is super, super technical, but is still like willing to put his life on the line to get that finish. He's always going for a finish. He's not like a lame fighter. He's fun. These are both fun fighters. They're both Yo Alvarez is a technical fighter, so this is what you like to see, like in the lightweight division. You get that combination of that exciting, fun matchup where it's still super technical. That's why it's my favorite division. This is gonna be like fight of the year. I think it's up there. It could get like fight of the year contendership, whatever. It's a really cool fight. Moving on to my number 11 spot, Renato Moicano. Maybe it was way too soon, the Islam fight, but I think that Islam fight did him a good thing because it put him in the limelight. You know, it gave him a shot at the belt. A lot of new fans like got eyes on him. You know, he probably got some good money from that fight, which Money Moicano, that's his thing. Um, he's a good fighter. You know, he's got that win against Benoit Saint Denis. That was insane. I didn't think he was gonna do that. I thought he was gonna win, but that was crazy. Got dropped by Turner, came back, finished him. That was cool. The cool fight with Drew Dober. What I think he should do is I think he should sit out a bit. Um, he didn't really take any damage against Islam, so maybe he shouldn't sit out. A lot of people are gonna say that, but I think he needs to get more money. Like he said, Money Moicano. He should wait for a couple of the names that I'm gonna be talking about later on. You know, I'm gonna matchmake them, and once those fights kind of take place, I think he should be trying to fight like the winners or losers of those fights, trying to get bigger names. But there's just not a lot to matchmake right now for him, so I think he should sit out, try to get a big name because he's becoming a big name himself, and he's trying to keep that going, get some money going. I would think. So Money Moicano, really cool, really exciting, really fun on the mic. I like to listen. He's cool. Moving on. We got Gamrot. He's coming off that fight of the year contender against Dan Hooker. I think that was in Australia. That was a cool fight. I don't know what to do with him. That's why I don't have anything match made for him. He's a good fighter. He really will test anyone's grappling you put him against. So you want to test someone's grappling, give him to Gamrot. You want to give him Rebecca. That's a cool fight. Klein. That's a cool fight. But moving on, number 9, Dan Hooker. Dan Hooker is probably one of the most fun lightweights in the division. You know, he's always putting on a cool scrap. Like I said, that fight of the year contender with Gamrot. Beat Turner. You know, he's lost to Makachev, so he's definitely not probably going to be fighting for the belt anytime soon. He was supposed to be fighting Justin Gaethje at UFC 313, but that fight fell through. And I think he would have lost that fight against Gaethje. He's cool. You know, he's really exciting. I don't know what to do with them. Actually, I do know what to do with them, and I'll get to that in the future. But this Dan Hooker fight's really... I mean, Dan Hooker, his fights are always exciting. He's always putting his, like, you know... He just can stay in the fight. I don't know what to say about this dude. He's just, like... He has, like, a fighter's, like, mentality. He knows what to do in the fight. He's always right there, always in the pocket. He's always just on his feet scrapping, dude. He's cool. He's fun to watch. Check him out if you can't have him before. Moving on, at the number 8 spot, Aaron Michael Chandler. I think he's going to knock out Paddy Pimblett. He's fighting at UFC 314. He's, you know, you look at this picture, it doesn't look that great, right? We got Oliveira, Poirier, Gaethje, Oliveira. That doesn't look good. He's got a win over Ferguson, but come on, man. Tony Ferguson's not the same. So, but I think he is going to get a win against this Pimblett. And anytime Michael Chandler gets a win, or hell, anytime Michael Chandler fights, they're always trying to boost him up right to the, you know, title spot. So I like to see what they do with him in the future. He's always fun to watch. Maybe he goes up to 170. He's very big, a lot of muscle, and probably doesn't have a future at 155. But any fight he's in, he's always in a fun scrap. I think he's going to knock out Pimblett. Moving on. Number 7, Dustin the Diamond Poirier. Kind of unwarranted title shot against Islam, but he really, really came out and gave a good performance in that fight. Got finished, was a Darce choke in like the last round. Man, he looked good. He gave Makachev a permanent scar. The UFC is looking for a retirement fight for him, and I'm not sure who they're gonna do or what they're gonna do for that fight. But whoever it is, I know it's gonna be fireworks. I hope they don't do a rematch with Gaethje. You know, he definitely shouldn't be fighting Islam again. I don't want to see him fight like a contender like Armin. You know, but I'll matchmake his fight later on in the video, so stay tuned for that. Moving on, number 6, Justin Gaethje, he's been calling for a title shot lately. I don't think he deserves it. But he has a pretty good record. You know, that exhibition matchup against Holloway, not exhibition. You got knocked out, man. I'm sorry to hear it, but you're coming off a win, really good win. I thought you'd beat Hooker as well. I rate you. I think you're a good fighter. I'm just gonna move on because I'm kind of taking up a little bit of time right here. Volkanovski, featherweight at number 5. Maybe he doesn't deserve it. He sure as hell beats every single person I've already named. I don't think he beats the people I'm gonna name in the future, but hey, he deserves to be on the spot. Only losses are to Makachev and Topuria. You know, he's beat Holloway. Holloway's ranked in the lightweight, so he deserves a spot. Moving on. Maximus Holloway. I think Max Holloway at 155 could beat Ilia Topuria. Maybe he gets chinned again. You know, Topuria's power could translate to 155 even more. But don't get me wrong, dude. Come on, Max Holloway looks so good at 155. I think he could probably go to a decision, and if it goes to decision, he's winning that fight. You know? But I like Max Holloway at 155. I love to see what the future has. I really wish he didn't go down to 145. But then we would have got that really awesome matchup with him and Topuria, which is a super fight. We wouldn't have got that if he didn't go down, so I'm glad he did in a way. But really hate to see him get slept. I would like to see him have a really cool fight, you know, bounce back and get a win. I love Max Holloway. Everyone loves Max Holloway. Moving on. The person that knocked out Max Holloway at number 3, I can't put him under Max even though I would like to at 155. He's knocked out Max Holloway. He knocked out Volkanovski. He schooled Emmett, schooled Mitchell. He got dropped by Herbert, but he knocked out Herbert. And now he's at 155. No longer the 145-pound champion. I think he's going to do some damage in the division. He's definitely top 3. That's why he's in the number 3 spot. I would like to see him fight Islam. I don't know if the UFC is trying to do it because, you know, they're trying to go away from champion dropping his belt and just fighting for the belt, I guess. They want him to get a contender fight. He says he just wants to fight a contender. Charles Islam said they don't want to fight him, so I don't know what to do. But I think that would be probably the most exciting fight you can make in the division is Topuria Islam. And I can't not talk about it. That's like the fight to make. 16-0, Ilia Topuria versus, you know, 5 consecutive title defenses at lightweight, Islam Makhachev. That's like, come on, that's the matchup you need. Moving on, number 2, pretty much everyone's favorite lightweight, Charles Oliveira, coming off that win against Michael Chandler. He looks really improved that fight. Lost to Sarikian. People like to give him that win. I can't give him that win, but that was really close. You could give him that win. Knocked out Dariush, submitted by Makhachev, submitted Gaethje. So, pretty good record. Charles Oliveira is definitely like number 3 lightweight of all time. So, there's no way he's not on this list. UFC likes to give him like title shots or number 1 contender fights. He's deserving of them all. And I would like to see him be put probably in another number 1 contenders fight. Definitely not the next title shot, but he deserves a number 1 contender fight. Moving on to the number 1 fighter at lightweight, Anshul Jubli. Just kidding. Arman Tsarukyan is my number 1 fighter at lightweight. He's the most deserving fighter probably at lightweight. So I think out of all the fights the UFC should do next, this is the one that makes the most sense. Yes, Topuria is probably like the coolest fight. But hey, we don't know how good Arman is against Islam. I think he can put up a really good fight. So he's my number 1 fighter. He's on a very good win streak. He's got Oliveira. He's got Dariush. He's got Silva. He's got Ismagulov. It's hard to pronounce, but I know who he is. He's lost to Gamrot. Really, come on. That's not that much of a loss. You can go both ways. And like I said, he finished Alvarez brutally. That's a good fight on your record. I included that out of, you know, they all have 5 fights, this whole thing, but I'd include that one. You know, Arman, he's my number 1 fighter. Who should Islam fight next? I've kind of hinted at it throughout the video on who we should fight next. And right here, I'm just going to kind of like rapid fire a couple fights that I think should happen at the top of the division. You tell me what you think. I've seen like Bedtime, left lane and everyone kind of match makes some fights at lightweight. I like some of the fights they're making, but I think these are the correct fights that should happen. Don't get me wrong, they made some good fights, but I think this is just the perfect picture for lightweight. These are going to give you the funnest fights, and I think it's going to give you the most deserving contenders. So moving on, boom, boom, boom. Come on, that's a banger. Dan Hooker versus Yoel Alvarez. Come on, that's a bloodbath of a fight right there. I think Yoel Alvarez is going to beat Benoit Saint Denis. Dan Hooker, he has that really bad hand injury that he's waiting off. So I think the time's going to kind of align for them. You know, they're both going to be wanting some time off, especially Dan Hooker with the injury. I don't know how bad Yoel Alvarez is going to be, damage done to him. So I don't know what time he needs, but I think the time frame is going to work out. I think this is the fight to be made at lightweight. Probably one of the most fun fights you're going to see in the year. It's a banger. Another tall lightweight. It's going to be cool. Moving on. This is probably the number one contenders fight that, Justin Gaethje wants, that Armin's been calling for it too. I think the UFC should make this fight. If they don't do Islam versus Armin, Gaethje doesn't deserve the title shot. Please don't give it to him. But you could give him a number one contenders fight, and I think this is a fun matchup. It's fun. Moving on. Come on, man. This right here has got to be the best boxing fight the UFC can put on. Just imagine the slips, the counters, the body work. This is going to be fucking fun. This right here is what you want to see for Dustin Poirier's retirement fight. Maybe he gets slept, but man, maybe he sleeps Ilia Topuria, the heel of the UFC. That's a really good retirement ending. You got to put this for Dustin Poirier's last fight. Maybe I'm just being selfish. I really want to see the boxing in this fight. I know it's going to be fun to watch. It's probably the most aesthetically pleasing striking fight you're going to see in the UFC. This needs to happen. And I don't think Poirier is going to get slept. Come on, he's a good fighter. We haven't seen him slept in a while. I take that back. He got slept by Gaethje. But, Islam, Ilya's not going to be throwing up head kicks. He doesn't throw kicks. It's going to be a boxing-only fight, and boxing is where Poirier succeeds in his weight class. He's the 155er, not the 145er anymore. Topuria is the 145er, and he is barely going up. He might have the speed advantage, but this is Poirier's weight class, and this is his skill set. Unless Topuria takes it to the ground, I think Poirier could win this fight. Moving on. Come on. This right here. This is BMF and BMF. BMF number 1, BMF number 2 right here. This is what you need at the freaking, division. Charles Oliveira is probably the most savage lightweight on the roster. He's always going for heavy Muay Thai style. Muay Thai always translates well for the audience, So he is BMF quality. This, if you're always like, you can't put everyone in a BMF fight because not everyone is BMF quality. Charles Oliveira is BMF quality, and he's deserving of this fight. I think so. Max Holloway is definitely deserving of a number one contender fight at lightweight. Maybe you need one more win. But this could give you what both of them want. Charles wants that BMF belt, and Max Holloway wants a number one contender fight. They kind of give each other both what they want. I think this is what you need. This is probably all these 4 fights, I've seen a lot of people matchmake, and they're all kind of thrown around everywhere. These people are just mixed matched, but they're all the same fighters, These fighters are just kind of mixed around a little bit. I think this is the correct order. You're going to get the funnest fights out of this. Come on. Charles Oliveira versus Max Holloway is a banger. Topuria versus Poirier is a banger. Armin versus Justin, that's another banger. Maybe not like the rest of them, but that's technical, and that's a good fight. We got Dan Hooker versus Yoel Alvarez. Dark horse of the division versus maybe not anymore, but another dark horse of the division back in the day. Dan Hooker. That's a good fight. That's a bloodbath. That's a fun fight. Call me the best matchmaker on YouTube. This is my first ever YouTube video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I got a lot more ideas coming for the future, so stay tuned. Hopefully I'm able to get this out to you on time that I would like. I would like to put out fun videos like this, just random ideas, every Thursday or Friday. And then I would like to do a recap video of fight nights or UFC cards on Sundays. I'll try to put that out on Sundays. And then I'm also going to try and do prediction videos for UFC cards. I'll try to put those on Tuesdays, around there. So stay tuned on the channel. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Be sure to leave a like, leave a comment. I'm gonna check every comment. I'm gonna be glued to the screen because it's my first ever video. But hope you guys liked it. Later.